I tell you, my phone just went off, and I see a canceling on my hospitable account. What is it about?
Man, that sucks, man.
Yeah, let me see what this is. I really don't get too caught up in it, given the fact that I have you can set your account at the different levels where you're flexible, super flexible, or you're not as flexible.
Welcome to a life.
I tend not to be so eager to give you all your dollars back, and you always leave a little bit more money on the table if you're in my calendar more than 3 days. Yeah, so yeah, it sucks being you. Yeah, you're gonna lose some money. All right. Anyway, it is what it is. All right, we're gonna get our monologue started, and then we're gonna do a roll call. Then we're gonna jump into this segment of Airbnb Pro Tips. Let's go.
I get on here.
My PowerPoint has a life of its own, y'all. Let's see if we can get it to work. All right, let's do it. So they told us that wealth was locked behind boardroom doors that we would never enter. That freedom was preserved for the privileged, the connected, and the already rich. But let me tell you something, that was a lie. See, we are the generation that's rewriting the rule book. See, we don't need $1 million fund. We don't need a landlord's permission. But what we do need is a blueprint. Oh, we got a hot exactly mic. What I'm about Get to yourself lay out. This is Airbnb Pro Tip. I am your host, Steve Craig. Every week, we're breaking down real game from real entrepreneurs on how to launch, automate, and scale that Airbnb business. I got it. We're giving you the strategies, the money moves, and the mindset shifts that will separate those from the dreams, from those who are executing on those dreams. Here, we celebrate the wins, both big and small. Here, we talk to real entrepreneurs, the one that took action and changed their lives. Here, we're giving you the blueprint so that you can stop watching and start building. So, if you're ready to tap into your God-given ability to turn knowledge into passive income, to create a system that works for you instead of you working for it. Hey, welcome home. This is where transformation begins. This is where faith meets execution. This is where you level up your Airbnb game. This is Airbnb Pro Tips. All right. Okay, guys, we're going to get started. Episode 73, Airbnb Pro Tips. Guys, come on from mute. Let's do a sound check. And let's talk about these wins for the week. I'm definitely going to start with mine. As you guys know, I was in Hawaii. And I wasn't just taking in the sun. I was getting some knowledge. I was getting some education. And let me take the screen share off. My brain is just boom. It's just expanded a couple of phases. So much I learned, but I guess in a soundbite, I think that my biggest takeaway of being in a room with like multi-millionaires. So let me kind of paint this picture. And Ren, you probably knew this. I didn't know this. So I stayed in one of these villas, just literally 4 or 5 minutes from the Four Seasons. So each villa commands about, I think D gave us a discount. We were spending about like $500 a night,
Right.
and he gave us the friend and family discount. But I think he's getting like $600 a night. He's
Mhm.
getting like $600 a night, and then then I went to another person in our mastermind's property mastermind group. I went to another person's, Dr. Kim.
Okay.
Dr. Kim also has a Airbnb in a different subset of the resort. But because her pipeline is not as big as D's, her price point was quite a bit smaller. So D is commanding like $600 a night. Dr. Kim was only getting $300 a night. And the space was just as nice, if not nicer. So one of the things I'm learning in this short-term rental space is you don't have to have the nicest spot to have the command the biggest night per valley or per the daily rate. But what you do need to have, you got to have the pipeline. You need to be able to get more leads in a funnel and pull out that finished product. And of course, D's pipeline, his funnel is pretty big. He has a lot of people that's coming in his funnel. So,
Right. If I'm not mistaken, D's is right there off the golf course. He's in a gated community basically. So a
yeah.
lot of his is in there. I don't know where Dr. Kim's is.
So Dr. Kim, she's that first subset of houses that as you come into Colina, that you see it and it's all gated to the right.
Right. Uh-huh.
Her stuff, her properties is there.
Oh, okay. I
So
got
she's actually, theoretically, she's actually closer to the Four Seasons than
Yeah,
D.
she
So,
yeah,
but
she
so and this was the other takeaway, kind of mind blowing. They're both nice, don't get me wrong. And my win for the week is being able to experience all of that and be able to say, man, yo, there's another level. D has 30 of those in that resort area. And each one is like $2 million. So that's simple math. He has $60 million of assets. So when he tells us about going, instead of going a mile wide, he wants us to go a mile deep. That's my takeaway now.
Right. And they're both in a prime location. One being that you got the Disney Resort, you got the golf course, you're right there in Colina, you got the beach and everything. So they're pretty much in a prime spot. Like you said, like D said, anytime you dealing with short-term rentals or Airbnbs or something, it's best to have it needs to be either attractive, either down, say downtown, something like, what I'm saying, something in that area. If you can get it on a hill, almost by next to some water, then you're gonna be golden. You ain't gonna have to worry about it.
Yeah,
Like that,
no
yeah.
doubt, no doubt. All right, so I took way longer than I intended. Ren, what's your win for the week, brother?
Uh, Not just still working and looking at apartment buildings and trying to find multifamily apartment buildings and my family reunion. That's probably my biggest, seeing my family that hadn't seen in a while, or things of that nature. So yeah,
That's
just
huge.
just working.
That's huge. All right. Toya, talk to us, man. Talk to us, young lady. Come off of
Yeah,
mute and speak to us.
I think. Can you hear me?
I hear you perfectly.
Oh, okay. I'm only reason I'm not on camera because I remember I told you I had an appointment, so I'm not stationary.
You fine.
Um,
You
but
fine.
yeah, I'm new to all of it, so I don't. I'm always winning, but I can't say that I've won on anything specific. Uh, whole week, but I'm just looking forward to getting started and really learning the business.
All right. So Toya is one of our new mentees. You know, we're going to be locking arm in arm and getting some wins in this game. You're already winning because it's a mindset. It's winning is nothing but a mindset. I believe that. All right, brother Dante. What about you, brother? What's your win for the week?
My win was I was able to send a contract over to a potential partnership in Seattle. So I'm just waiting on him to sign a contract. So that's my win.
Oh, beautiful, man. Let me know how that is going, man. If you need any assistance at all, we can
Yeah.
jump on a three-way or a Zoom and let's get
Yes, sir.
that wrapped up.
Yes, sir.
All right, so let me screen share. I got some pretty interesting information that we're gonna get into about what's in the news cycle that may or could impact, your STR businesses.
Did you know that some cast members are allowed to be rude or mean to guests? But it's
I don't need that. We'll come back to that. All right, here we go. All right, so a couple things I saw in the news cycle that I thought was interesting. I want to talk about. Over tourism, is STRs to blame? Because sometimes folks, especially when they don't know the industry, but they know traditional landlording. That's one thing that might push back, cause a landlord or property owner to push back if they think there's oversaturation. So I'm gonna get y'all thoughts and opinions and weigh in myself on that question. Then we're gonna speak to the question: are you strong enough to build an STR business? Because many people realize it's a cash flow play, but a lot of people might think it's a passive cash flow play. And the truth of the matter is, it can be, but not always. Then we're gonna dive into this news story that's been big. We talked about a little bit, but y'all realize that Airbnb is trying to be the next Amazon. Well, what does that mean exactly, and what does that mean specifically for you and your business? So I got two clips that speak a little bit about that. And if you're tapping in on any one of our social media platforms, this is your opportunity to get a peek behind the scenes on individuals who are currently building or have built STR businesses, short-term rentals, that is. And when we started the podcast, it was all about Airbnb Pro Tips. And over time, I'm actually kind of guiding away from that because I heard a webinar about 3 months ago, and it created an awareness in me. And the awareness was this: I want you to take a look at your last 10 bookings, and of those 10, how many came from Airbnb? And for me, it was 10 for 10. And what they said is, if you're building your business right over the next 6 to 10 months, you need to have 6 out of those 10 not come from Airbnb, and to come from your relationship, your branding, and direct bookings. Because you have control over that, but you don't have control over VRBO or Airbnb or Booking.com. And I thought that was very interesting because the last 3 times I personally have stayed in a short-term rental, I went straight to the owner or straight to the person that was providing the service. I didn't go through, and that's really the trend, and that's the best way of building a short-term rental business. So we'll speak more to that, but that's why we're shifting away from just being everything Airbnb. All right, let's get into our first clip and let's talk about it. All right. We're gonna play a clip, and I want your opinions of what you're taking away from the clip. then I'm gonna chime in as well. All right, here we go.
For years, Airbnb has taken the blame. Over tourism, must be Airbnb. Rising rent, probably Airbnb. Neighborhood losing character, you get the idea. But lately, Airbnb's been trying to flip that script. In a recent EU report they commissioned, Airbnb pointed out that in the top 10 cities across Europe, places like Paris, Rome, Amsterdam, hotels account for over 75% of tourist nights. And in cities like Barcelona and Amsterdam, where short term rentals restrictions have tightened, tourism hasn't even gone down, it has gone up, and hotel development has followed. The report also points to other drivers of over-tourism, such as cruise ships, low-cost airlines, airport expansions. In other words, short-term rentals might be just one piece of a much larger puzzle. Now, is this Airbnb making a fair point or just redirecting pressure? Well, the report reflects the company's perspective, but the data does open up a broader question. Should regulations focus solely on short-term rentals or take a harder look at the full tourism ecosystem? Let us know what you think.
All right. So that was our first article. I thought that was interesting. Who would like to take a swing at that article, share out what they think, what they got from it?
Well, okay, I'll go. Since we let me take the thing off. I ain't on it. All right. So, like I was saying, like we were just talking about earlier, I think it's based on the attraction that's there. And for me, I've done an Airbnb before, but typically I don't do an Airbnb. I usually, because I get points with like the hotel chains or whatever that I'm going with or whatever. If I'm flying overseas, then I'll get with Delta and just do. They have like the Delta vacations, and then it's usually a hotel. It's usually not an Airbnb. I have some Airbnbs, and I think a lot of that is just either me and my wife going. It's really not taking a whole bunch of people or anything like that. So it's kind of short. I don't really need an Airbnb, and then the part of the restrictions and regulations. I know right here in Kentucky, they are really, really tampering down on the Airbnb and the short-term rental space, and that's just because, just as everything else across the United States, you got homelessness and stuff like that. So they're really trying to clamp down on what can be an Airbnb. So if it ain't, like I was saying earlier, if it ain't in a destination space or it ain't next to some type of attraction, then I think that's going to make it struggle a lot.
So that's an interesting observation that in Kentucky, the correlation with homelessness and the number of short-term rentals there are in that particular community, when they're actually not even very independent. One don't have anything to do with the other. Homelessness is really more of a function of twofold: affordable housing, number one, and in a lot of cases, my wife's a social worker, is more of getting folks to services that help with their mental health. A lot of depression, a lot of substance abuse in that homeless population. But yeah, bro, appreciate your insight. Toya, jump in. What was your thoughts on that article?
Well, to be honest, I'm driving, so I'm just listening.
Okay.
So it was kind of brief. So I didn't really, I would have to probably hear it again, for me to really give you any real feedback on it. And because like I said, also because I'm learning the business, I have stayed in Airbnbs before, not many. So I don't, like I said, so by me being new, I don't know, all the ins and outs and strategies between, or the differences really between the short term and the Airbnb. So that's why I'm like, this is all completely new to me. Yeah, so
I love it.
I don't.
I love it. This is how you get educated. You got to jump in.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, listen. Once a week when I jump on the phone with the DB community and the streams of income, and he's talking about multifamily. Man, things are moving so fast for me. I can't keep up. But the more you go around it, you start learning it. And that's the idea. You always kind of push yourself to be in bigger and bigger rooms that with people who have bigger goals and ideas. Because then you a little bit rubs off and you catch fire. So I get it. Don't trip. You're in a good place, safe place here.
Well, I'm
Dante,
interested. I'm interested. So that's why I'm here. So I'm just,
yeah, no, you're in a safe place. Dante, what about you, man? As a brother who has transitioned from the rental arbitrage game to the co-listing game, and now we're doing the remote hosting. What does that article mean to you as you listen?
My bad. Right now I'm at work, so like I was hearing it just a little bit, but
No worries.
yeah, from
No
what I
worries.
heard, basically, I just feel like it's better to just do management remotely because I feel like there's just more opportunity. The rest of arbitrage is just so many bills and stuff that has to get paid every month. It's like you have another apartment, and if you don't meet your monthly dues, then that could put you in a hole. So management, I feel like that just avoids everything, and you could just make money rather than lose money.
100%. And not to mention is much more scalable, much more scalable. So one of the things I can tell you from my position, seeing this 4 years removed, is that STRs used to be blamed for about everything. And now, because more and more communities are kind of coming to the realization or the cycles that it's not a bad thing for a community. It doesn't mean doing for the hotel industry. I think the future in front of short-term rentals is a lot brighter than what's behind as short-term rentals, because again, more and more areas will go through their cycle of regulation and deregulation, because that's exactly what's happening in New York City, as I shared with you guys a couple episodes ago, that their Airbnb is actually putting almost $5 million behind a gubernatorial candidate that is going to be more Airbnb STR friendly. And as you guys may know, New York City is the most regulated city, one of the most regulated city in the world. And yet people are still making great money with STRs in New York City. So good things are in front of us is what I'm trying to say. That's my overall takeaway from that article. All right, let's go to Article 2. Are you strong enough to build an STR business? I'm gonna be completely transparent. I think long-term rentals, traditional rentals, are an easier game for most people. And that's why there's opportunity for us, because it requires a level of sophistication that not every investor is able or willing to develop. So let's take a look at the article.
I get on here on TikTok and on YouTube and I talk about how great investing in short-term rentals is because, in my opinion, it's better than the stock market. I can control the product almost entirely. I can control the income. I'm 100% responsible for all of that. Your value still goes up like it does in the stock market, but there are some downsides that you absolutely have to understand before you're like, oh, this is fantastic, let me get into it. Other than, unlike investing in the stock market, which is just push a button, it's done. You can, just get in and out of stocks if you want, or just plug your money into ETFs and it's gone. The short-term rental thing requires you to have active participation in it. You're going to have to deal with guests. You're going to have to deal with contractors. You're going to have to deal with building issues. And all those things are going to involve dealing with people. And, if you've worked in customer service before, sometimes you have to put on your customer service voice and just get through things when you want to just say, you know, F you, F all this, F the whole thing. It's definitely more owner intensive than a long-term rental. If you're in long-term rentals, which is also a great way to invest in real estate, you get a lot of the same benefits, but you don't get the same tax benefits as far as the like accelerated depreciation and using the short-term rental loophole to offset your active income with this passive income as it's qualified by the IRS. But I can tell you that Airbnbs and VRBOs and short-term rentals are anything but passive. So with all the good stuff that me and lots of other creators come on here and tell you guys about, there are some definite downsides that you really need to consider before you just jump in head over heels into the short-term rental game.
Love it. Round table. What's your takeaway?
Yeah, like we discussed before, I'm into right now basically long-term rentals. I have a couple of long-term rentals that I like, you know, and I'm basically in there for the equity. So I can, once those properties after 4 or 5 years, those properties mature where I can't use the tax benefits anymore, take those properties, do a 1031 exchange and move into a bigger property or to a multifamily or something like that.
Absolutely.
But I do know the short-term rentals in the Airbnb space is what we call more of a cash flow. You're going to get more cash flow out of that business than you are going to get out of doing a long term. You know what I'm saying? So it really just depends on what you're doing. Even with my long-term rentals, I don't do any. I got a property manager for it.
Mhm.
I ain't going in to do no toilets. I ain't cutting
Yep.
grass. None of that. I'm letting them handle it. That's it.
That's right.
And I'm good to go. So
All
I
right.
don't know. I don't know if what the guy's saying is that's true. I don't know if you could probably have a property manager for your business, or if it's. I'm not sure if that's ran strictly by you yourself. But if it is, it's probably nothing that I wouldn't deal with. I don't want to deal with no customer. You know what I'm saying? Somebody else should be doing it, or you should have a team beside you that's actually, all right, this is your job. You're handling this portion, that portion, whatever. So as far as the best.
Very good. No, I'll dovetail into that in a moment. Because what you said is an interesting part of the strategy that I use. Toya, Dante, either you guys wanna share out what your thoughts were?
Well, I used to be a landlord years ago. So from just what little bit of knowledge I have about it, and what and in comparison to what the article is I guess I would agree, I guess, with just having more hands-on. Um, but I have more questions because I'm so new to all of this. Um, do you find do you find that it's less it's less of a hassle with the short-term rentals and more of a cash flow because you're having so much turnaround?
So yeah, those are great questions. And so the first part, is it less than a hassle? If you don't have a system, is actually more of a hassle. Do you have more of a cash flow? Absolutely. That's the premise of the partnership that we have with traditional landlords. So let's kind of think about this as into two distinct buckets. Bucket number one is the maintenance of the property and the functionality of a property. And many investors are very much in the same bucket as rent. Let me go get a property manager. That property manager will handle the toilets, the toilets, the tenants, and the termites, and I just worry about the equity and any capital expenditures needed. And they'll give their property manager industry standards is about 10%. All right, and then the other bucket, okay, is the bucket and the value add that people like myself and people like Dante, and anybody who's kind of mastered this remote hosting, what we bring is bringing traffic to the property. So we're the people side of the business. And because we're the people side of the business, we represent the most, that's what customer service. That's when being able to mitigate potential problems before they occur. That's when it's super important. And that's why we talk about systems. That's why we talk about creating uh, stacks and stacks of potential messaging that we can put through our AI. So as a person is thinking about or considering selecting our place for a stay, we got all of this information that is automatically at their fingertips. So a lot of the interaction and expectation, I'll give you a quick example, right? So my wife and I were at the jazz festival yesterday, and I get a notification on the phone, always good, that someone is interested in checking in, and they want to know was the place going to be available for the next 3 nights. And yeah, I messaged, my AI got the automated message, and then I came back a couple minutes later. So yeah, we can do that. And then, they elevated it. Well, can we get in tonight? Well, that's not an automated thing. So AI couldn't take care of that. So, I took a minute away from the jazz and was able to kind of accommodate them, because, it's always about service. And as you know, the shorter the stay, the more they'll pay. So I say all that to say that if I didn't have a system, if I didn't have automation in place, I couldn't really enjoy the jazz festival while all of those things were going on. But I think my main takeaway from the article, if I could be blunt, is to just recalibrate people who are getting into this, that think that this is a passive play. Very unwise. It is a semi-passive play at best, but it's not passive. But it's a bucket in one hand versus two in the other. If you want the equity, which is what Rand is talking about, long-term rentals is the way to go. If you want the cash flow, and that's what we're about, short-term rentals is the way to go. What we offer a landlord, and why so many landlords want to partner with us, is because it gives them the opportunity to do both. They can continue, they can continue building their equity, but then they now get the chance of the cash flow opportunity, and somebody else is managing all that, and all they're doing is allowing us to co-list the property at a negotiated split, whether it's a 70-30 split, 80-20 split, or anything in the middle. So that's my takeaway from the article. Dante, would you add anything or push back on anything I said?
I agree with everything you were saying. What the person was saying in the video, he's saying that it's more of an active cash flow rather than like passive income. I would disagree with that, because I feel like when you're active, it's like a 9 to 5. You feel me? When it comes to this business, it's not a 9 to 5. You only need to work on it like an hour a day, as long as all the systems is in place, and then you could literally make money in this seat. So that's what I would disagree with that point. But I agree with everything you said.
Right. No, you're 100% on board. I mean, all of the real work is front loaded at the beginning, because you're building all of the communication stacks, you're building the listing, but after you build it, you're really setting it and forget it. And that's what's attractive. But again, you'll have an occasional. So circling back to this one guest, right? So I didn't tell you, the guest, then once I allowed him to book the extra days, so he could book that day, then it got really interesting, because then I had to remind him, hey, I need you to pay. So if he would have booked for the regular duration, so he would have come in today at 4 o'clock. My AI would have sent out an automated reminder, hey, you got to pay that $30 rental damage protection policy before any of your codes go live. Okay, because people, they just assume. So we have little reminders that go out automatically. So my guy, right? So I manually had to remind him, hey, your system will go live as soon as I receive a screenshot that you paid for the rental protection. My guy, 3 a.m. trying to get into the place. He ended up sleeping in the car, y'all. I don't do business at 3 a.m.
Fine.
So I got up this morning to a screenshot, and then his codes went live. Listen, don't hate the player, hate the game. We got systems in place, y'all.
He knew he was taking a chance. There was no
Right?
guarantee with anything. So
Well, here's what my
So
wife said.
did he pay for that night, or was he just trying to get in there earlier?
No, he paid for the night. He paid for the night, but he wouldn't send me his screenshot that he had bought the rental protection. He sends me a screenshot at 3 a.m. I ain't checking no. He actually called me at 3 a.m. But I have one of those iPhones that go direct unless your last name is McCray and you one of my kids. That phone don't ring. So I know he got my voicemail. But I get up at 4 a.m. So at 4 a.m. I saw it. And whenever he got up. But here's the funny thing my wife said. He said, baby, I'm glad we got systems. Because his drunk behind would have been in our Airbnb tearing up stuff. I said probably, but he slept it off in the car. All right, any questions, comments, or concerns before I go to the next news item? We are blowing my timeline, but it's all good. This is good. This is good. All right, we're going there. What's next for Airbnb? Y'all ready for this? Here we go.
At the end of the day, where the industry is going, and I think anybody out there that is actively involved in the short-term rental industry would probably agree, it's experience driven. It's all Airbnb seems to be focused on right now is putting experiences in front of guests and in front of travelers. So the better experience was a culmination of the right design for your target audience, creating something they don't get to use at home or very frequently in their life. So that can be driven through amenities or the location, the setting of the property, how you deliver that to guests. That's going to be the most crucial thing that you can focus on.
All right. So before I open this up for discussion, experience. Let me be clear. So you can provide an accommodation and make a little money on Airbnb, or you can provide an experience and make a lot more money, because now what people are doing is they're taking those experiences, and you know how you go to a good restaurant, and then people are taking snapshots of their meals and posting them online. That is what a good experience allows for someone to take where they're staying and what they're doing and making social media worthy. Okay. So with that being the backdrop, let me start with you, Toya. What did you take from the article?
That's what it's about, the experience. If you can create, I guess, giving them or allowing your guests to, I guess, experience something that they would not normal, or anything extra that you can do, seems like that's where it's at. I mean, and like I said, the little bit of Airbnbs that I stayed in, they supplied the amenities. Like they said, it's not just about the amenities, but I don't know if I've ever really got much of an experience. So that's interesting to me, and that's one thing that I guess I would have to use AI to figure out what type of what type of experience can I create in any of these properties that I'm going to have that's going to draw, that's going to bring the traffic, or that's going to be long lasting and make people want to do short-term rentals and, stick with and just basically come into my business.
Very good. Well, you're gonna learn. You partner with the right one. Dante, what's your takeaway, brother? I know you're at work.
Yeah, I can't really talk right now. My apologies.
No worries, no worries, no worries. All right, Ren, I know this you're kind of outside looking in. What was your takeaway from that article?
That pretty much goes with anything. Like you said, that goes with anything. Anything you're doing, you have to have an experience that's better than the next person. You know what I'm saying? Because you can have an Airbnb or a short-term rental that's right next door to you doing the same thing. But if you giving them less or the same thing as far as either the amenities or what's going on, their experience, and experience actually starts for any business starts from the day you that contact with the customer or the consumer, whatever they're doing. That's when that experience starts. Because if they got a bad contact with you or whatever from that point on, like I said, it take one person to get around on bad stuff. It takes forever for the good stuff to get around, which we call it. But one person that gives you a bad review or a bad say, no, it wasn't really worth it. That's gonna trend faster than anything if somebody says something good. So yeah. That's just business. Period. Yeah.
So
You say that's more longer lasting. That's long lasting is the negative
Yeah.
more so than the positive.
correct, correct. So let me say this. In my opinion, there's three levels of the experience. And maybe there's more, but three levels that I think about. The first level is the surface level, getting in there and having it pleasing to your eyes. You know, if let's be real, if you don't have good cleaners, yeah, that's not going to be a good experience for your guests. So it's got to be appealing to the eyes, and that's why, out of the gate, when I'm working with a new landlord, the one thing I say, well, give me what you got on your iPhone, but then know I'm gonna get professional photos. The next level is beyond the eye, Andy. Then it's the responsiveness between you, the guest, you, the host, and the guest. Because let's keep it 100. The one thing I always do from an expectation standpoint is let my guests know, hey, nature is around us. So you may have some critters in the house or this, that, and the third. But then my commitment to you is to be as responsive as I can on making your stay enjoyable. And that's the experience that some new people don't get. And that you got to be extremely responsive to people, almost anticipate what they might need without them even asking for it. That's one of the things I liked about my last experience at the Airbnb. My host anticipated everything a guest might need if they were having a beach experience. I mean, like literally, there was stuff for us to go scuba diving in on the property. There was coolers for us to take our beverages to the beach. There was a little vacuum cleaner for us to clean up the sand that we're tracking into. That was well thought. Y'all tracking? So the experience. And then, so the third level, and this is the level that my wife and I are operating on, is everybody in our ecosystem, they get what we call a virtual store, where now if they want to check out a local massage therapist in the virtual store, they can upload that service. Or if they want to have an experience where they have a person that can do a Zoom online art course, we can provide that. So as crazy as your imagination can get, and it really creates an opportunity for you to connect your accommodations to local businesses in the area, and then I'll be able to partner. I mean, it would be the equivalent, Ren, if I came to your hometown and you gave me recommendations of where to go to get my dry cleaning done, or where to go to get a good meal. And then because you gave me the recommendation, you and that other owners had some sort of profit sharing setup. That wouldn't be hard for you to promote, would it? That's the goal, to try to create those experiences. So when people need a thing, it's right there. Okay. All right. This is the last thought. The last thought. Some of you guys may or may not know that Amazon back in the day only did books. Toya, did you know that?
I'm sorry, I missed that. I'm sorry.
I said back in the day, did you know that Amazon only did books?
No,
You didn't know that?
no. Not-
We're a long way. We're a long way from books, aren't we? We're a long way from books, aren't we? Well, here's the reason I bring it up. The reason I bring it up is that just like the trajectory that Amazon was on, where they only provided books, and now you can get everything from toothpaste to plastic, you know, what did my son just get? Retainers. You can get everything on Amazon. They evolved. Airbnb is going through the same process right now. Airbnb is going through a bit of an evolution, and here's reality. They may or may not have you and I at the center of their business plan. So let me watch. Let's watch this quick video, and have you guys chime in.
So how can vacation rental managers opt out of Airbnb services? Well, if you want to, and I'm not saying you should, but if you want to, right, then you need to be proactive. There's no simple toggle in your dashboard. So you need to contact Airbnb support directly by message, by phone, using clear language to state that you do not permit Airbnb services at any of your listings. Then update your house rules in each listing. Clearly state that no Airbnb services or experiences are permitted on the property, or that any violation could result in a cancellation figure. Keep written records of all communication, update your owner's agreements needed. If you want to offer your own services like mid-stay cleans, local experiences, private chef, consider setting these up off-platform and promoting them directly to guests. That way you retain control and capture the revenue, rather than giving it away.
Okay. Let me turn off the screen share and just speak directly to you guys, because this may or may not be obvious to everybody. Hey, Cornell, so you joined us. Like that little scenario where I talk about, Ren recommended me a couple places, and I going out there, and then they being able to profit split my purchase of the service. Well, imagine a situation where there was no profit splitting. There was none of that. Well, for those of you guys who are new to this, Airbnb is trying to position themselves not as a hospitality or a platform for housing. They're trying to position themselves much like Facebook. Facebook prides themselves as being a social connector. So here's Airbnb Play, and it's brilliant because they're trying to go down that road that Amazon went. Airbnb, if you go to an Airbnb app right now, which many of you have done this, not everybody has, there's 3 toggles. One toggle is for housing, another toggle is for experiences, and the third toggle, Dante, remind me, what's that third toggle? It'll come to me in a second. Or Cornell, if you can remember what it is. But literally, just like I was explaining, so Airbnb is now positioning themselves. So if you're a massage therapist, you can go directly to Airbnb, and Airbnb will market your services. So imagine you having an Airbnb, and then a guest comes to your area, and then we're very selective in who we want in and out of our property, because for security reasons, right? Well, you learn after the fact that an Airbnb vetted massage therapist was in your home giving that experience to the guests. Sounds good from a guest perspective, because hey, this is, I'm going to remember this is memorable. But Airbnb doesn't give you any percentage of that. So your place of business is now being used where Airbnb can double down and create an additional revenue stream. Now, on the surface, it sounds perfect, but think about what if a cook is involved, or think about if somebody comes over to provide an experience, and there could be any level of a cook comes to my mind because there could be a cooking accident. Who knows? But the truth of the matter is, the mere fact is there is a growing awareness that the host is no longer the primary focus. Let me take a step back. The guest has always been the primary focus. Now there's awareness that the host is no longer a secondary focus of this Airbnb ecosystem. And if you think about it from a business standpoint, it is a clever play. It's a clever play for Airbnb, because now they can have multiple streams of income, right, Rand? They can get multiple streams of income. But for the persons who is, ground zero where everything is going down, we don't see any additional dollars coming in at all. So that's the backdrop. So either Cornell, Dante, Toya, or Ren, if you guys want to chime in, so I can share with you the loophole, how we get around that.
I guess I'm kind of because I'm just like you just said, I'm thinking with my business hat, thinking about, I'm not really thinking, I'm just thinking in the business mind. I don't understand like how that affects the space, because even if, so basically Airbnb is taking up slack that so people can I've known people that have rent Airbnbs or whatever, and then they'll have for an anniversary or something, they'll have a cook come in anyway, and do that anyway. So either way, they're still gonna keep the host is not part of that. You're not gonna get no income from that anyway. Airbnb just figured out to play. Well, hey, I could just advertise this and have them go in there. So I don't see how that move really affects the host anyway, because regardless, if Airbnb wasn't doing it and somebody wanted to have that masseuse or have that have that cook or whatever come in, you probably wouldn't know nothing about it anyway, and you wouldn't get no money, no stream of income off of it anyway. So I don't understand. I think the only way that you can combat that is if you make sure that you can be the connection. Well, I have this. You basically you have to be working against Airbnb. I'm the plug.
I'm the
I know
plug.
this person, Airbnb might be essential this, but I got somebody that's better.
Exactly.
Better experience.
So right. So everybody that's working in this ecosystem, what Ren said, that's the end goal. You want to be the plug in your community based on your virtual store. Now Cornell, Dante, you guys have been in the game just as long as me. The downside of what you're saying, Ren, is this. For risk mitigation, what I tell everybody is simply this: nobody should be in your property unless prior authorization was given. Why? Because the fewer moving pieces, I mean, even if a person does the rental damage insurance, one of the biggest things early on that was popping off is these parties. And so now, we have we have been empowered to have video cameras on the outside. So Ren, if we were to get a property, oh boy, you would know if it was more than the 5 people that were scheduled in that property by way of the Ring camera. We would know that.
Right.
Because the truth is, it's all about risk mitigation. Now, if we agree, hey, a cook is going to be there, or if I agree, hey, you're local, we don't normally do local bookings, or if I agree ahead of time, you know, you're under 21, I don't normally rent to somebody under 21, but you're a military vet, and so I'm feeling like you, as long as you want to agree, because everything is a negotiation. But the Airbnb model, you're not even a part of that ecosystem. It's your place. They're the plug, and
Oh, okay. So the video is basically saying you can opt out of that where they can't actually do that. Okay, I got you.
gotcha.
Now it makes more sense. Before I was like, well, you wouldn't know it. Anyway, like I said, I've known people that do it, and they'll have a cook, you know what I'm saying, an anniversary or a party, or have a cook or something come in. And typically, but I don't know if it's changed, but the Airbnbs I've been to is you can have a certain amount of guests up to a certain amount of time, then it's cut off. So as long as that massage or cook ain't coming in after it doesn't matter to me at all. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna pay for whatever damages that happen.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
Right. And listen, and when you got the property, so there's multiple plays. So if you want to play, well, okay, yeah, I want to open it up for parties and so forth and so on. Okay, that's the play you want to be on is shared space or peer space. Peer space, they can come into your place, have a reception or whatever. That's the focus, but they're not spending the night.
Right.
Now, if your players you want to accommodate night visits, you don't want to be on peer space. You want to be on Airbnb, VRBO, or Furnish Finders. So you, as the property owner, you can have different plays, but at the end of the day, you still control what's going on.
Gotcha.
And it's the lack of control, and it's the fact that most new people who are getting into short-term rentals don't even know that you can opt out.
Gotcha.
Okay. So you can actually opt out.
Cornell, mic check. I can't hear you. What you say?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yep.
Okay, so by y'all talking, so you can actually opt out of this situation because when it comes to services or experiences, a guest that's in your place for your home, they can actually rent out a chef or a massage using your place, but you're not getting anything from it.
That's
but
correct.
If I'm hearing anything correctly, you can opt out of that now.
Yes, you can. It's not obvious though, but you can.
Gotcha. That makes sense though, because it's like if they're using your space, but you're not getting anything from it, that's kind of like a clever play on Airbnb's part, but it's kind of a sneaky clever play. It's kind of smart. Wow. Unless you, just like you say, you're the plug with my massage, with my shit, with my experiences that you can provide to your guests inside your home. So you have to be a plug.
Yeah, correct. And it's not hard. I mean, it's not hard. If you have a W-2 mindset, which hopefully nobody on this platform does, folks out there in social media, is a distinction, right? W-2, you work, you get paid. You work, you get paid. Entrepreneur, you work. You might not get paid right away, but you know it's coming. It's like planting a seed in the ground. So as an entrepreneur, if you go out and you create all of these relationships with this, massage therapist or with this cook, or if anybody that can bring an experience, and in turn, you're bringing business to them, then it makes sense. It just makes sense. You just got to position yourself as a plug. And so the ultimate thing that, most new people don't know is because there's nothing on the app, there's nothing on the website. You physically have to call the 800 number and say, hey, I have 6, I have 5, I have 4, I have 3, I have 2 accounts or whatever, because when I do my property management based on the landlord might have 3 properties underneath them. I have a separate Airbnb account just for that person. Okay. I might have 7 landlords. Y'all tracking me? So I had to physically go in and opt out of this service for each one of those accounts. And they don't make it easy. And they don't want you to know about it either.
Of course not. You messing with their streams of income.
You messing with their
That's
streams.
why I said I like when I first heard it when he was talking when I went to the bill. I said I don't see it. The big issue. You know what I'm saying? You gotta think faster than what's going on. You know what I mean? So
That's
you know
right.
what I mean. So and right now Airbnb is trying to take over the basically the hotel space, but the hotels people, hospitality, they ain't trying to hear that. So it's gonna be a battle. So now they got to add on something, an experience better than what you're gonna get at a hotel in order for that to happen. You know what I'm saying? They're not trying to do an Uber and a taxi thing.
Right.
The hospitality rank, they ain't trying to do that. So that's why this battle with the regulations and all this other kind is just crazy.
But what you gotta love from
Oh
a
yeah, I love it.
business, from a capitalist standpoint, you gotta love the Airbnb place. Because here's at the end of the day, they don't own no houses, they don't own no villas. All they have is the software.
Right.
They're connecting the people, the algorithm, with the folks that have made these capital investments, and they're the plug. And they figured out if it can work for housing, it can work for anything. Because if you think about all the small business people that have this viable service, but nobody knows them, if they position themselves with Airbnb, now people will get media. It's a perfect, y'all gotta come on. It's a perfect play.
Yeah.
It's a perfect
Yeah,
play.
that's why that's one of the reasons why I went into the Turo space.
Yeah,
So I'm
exactly.
like, I don't have, you know what I mean? I'm basically splitting that profit, you know what I'm saying? And I ain't gotta worry nothing. It's
Right.
plan there. I gotta execute. Oh, somebody wanna rent this week. Somebody,
Yep.
you know what I mean? I got people renting this almost the same. I gotta go in same day. Like, well, okay, well,
It's beautiful play.
it's perfect. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why I was like, wow.
Yeah. Well, so listen.
Yeah.
So here's my tease. We're at the top of the hour, and we there was more meat on the bone that we got to, but it is what it is. This is supposed to be 100% education driven, just around what's going on.
So
Most people may not be aware of. So this is my tease for our next episode. Our next episode, if you have not done it, you're doing yourself a disservice. Go ahead and pick up this book on Amazon or Audible, Multifamily Millionaire. There's some authors, Brandon Turner and Brian Murray. They have a wealth of mindset related things. I'm gonna play this quick clip, and this is gonna be my tease for next week. We're gonna get into some of their ideas around the STR industry, because these guys are already making a lot of money in multifamily, but they're gurus. If you know podcasts like Bigger Pockets, these are the guys. So hang on.
As an entrepreneur and a millionaire, if you were only allowed to teach your kid 3 lessons about money,
I would teach that money is infinite, not finite, that you don't need to have a scarcity mindset around it because that's going to limit your potential and your opportunities, that money should be used to help others. No matter how much you make, a percentage should go to charitable endeavors, and that it's not all for us. We should have different buckets, one of them being give, one of them being save, one of them being invest, one of them being spend. Third is the power of leverage and potentially using other people's money or other people's talents through partnership, and then also utilizing banks or institutions or seller finance or whatever creative strategy you need to use to own an asset with as small of a down payment as you can.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. All right, guys, let's walk out of here, man. Let's end this. One takeaway that you got from the podcast today, Dante, Toya.
Never stop growing.
Hallelujah. Never stop growing. I love it. All right. Toya, what takeaway? You might be driving. All right. No problem. All right. Cornell or Rand, one takeaway from the podcast.
That the space is probably more semi-passive than just strictly passive.
Absolutely. 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 All right.
I can add some. I was trying to unmute myself. I parked actually.
All right, no problem.
What I got out of this, which I just found was interesting in that last clip, was I like how he said that money is infinite, because we don't. I mean, normally that's not the mindset. You think you get it, you spend it, it's gone. But we don't think about it coming back. We don't think about just consistency of, having that positive mindset to say you're going, what you spend, you're going to get it back, and you can all, and it can be tenfold sometimes depending on what you do. But what I also got out of the, what you just said prior was that it seems to me that it's about control from what Airbnb is trying to do. They want to have all of the control, where it seems like what we need to do is take that control, because we're doing the work. But if you build those relationships, create those experiences and environments, then you can control the whole thing.
Blessings. I love it. I love it. All right, Buck Cornell, you got the last word, man.
One takeaway that I learned from Taylor is leverage. Leverage is power. Leverage is power.
Leverage.
Leveraging other people's money, leveraging other people's talents to actually use that and be able to get ahead through assets. Even something simple as what we're talking about, STOs. The leverage is powerful in many ways to actually use that to actually get ahead. So that's one takeaway.
I'm leaning in. I'm leaning in, Cornell. I'm trying to make sure I hear every word. You're going in and out, but I heard leverage. I heard leverage.
Yep. So that's what I said: leverage people, money, and talents, and to be able to get ahead.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right, well, guys, we're at the top of the hour. I appreciate you, expert panelists, popping in and sharing your thoughts and wisdom with our folks out on social media. And look, here's the reality. Between 3 or 4 of us, we have, decades of business wisdom, but do your own research. STRs are definitely not for everybody. If you're going to get into an STR, make sure you get into a relationship with someone that can help you grow, and not someone that's going to give you a bunch of information that is not rooted in any experience. So with that note, be blessed, but more importantly, be a blessing. Take care, everybody.
Take care. Good night.
Guys.
Bless it.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.